2 tenths off on low downforce. Not bad, not bad. Okay, hello people. Welcome back to the final. Well, this was supposed to be the final setup video about a week and a half ago. Unfortunately, you know, the usual YouTube algorithm and whatnot. There was a little copyright claim because this footage matches real life or whatsoever. Good game, thank you FOM. So here we are once again after the holidays, and I think I did a pretty good job, I think, for the most part of the lap to match the previous best, which was of course on the 21.9 was on high downforce setup. So of course it's gonna be much quicker in time trial where you just go flat out. And well, lower downforce is always the way to go in races. And let's take a look at the setup right away. So it's pretty much the same for the low downforce and high downforce. The only difference is the wings. So let's get into the setup right away. And by the way, if you're looking for the track guide only, that's probably somewhere around 7-8 minutes onwards. And then if you want the setup, it's also in the description. Updated setups will always be updated in my Discord server, so feel free to join. The community loves these setups. There's also feedback given on these setups, and from time to time I'm updating the setups as well based on your feedback and all that. So let's see the setup for today. We have, well, you can consider this probably the low downforce setup around Abu Dhabi. You can definitely go lower here, but you're really compromising your pace around here, especially in sector 3. So it's okay to have some amount of downforce in the car because there's a lot of traction zones, tight long corners where you really need the aero, and sector 3 is really crucial for downforce. If you have enough downforce, sometimes you can pull away from the DRS gap, and once you pull away, tire wear kicks in, you will have better tire life than the others. So 37-30 is the low downforce that you want to go for. High downforce, I have gone for 40-33. And in the odd case where it's probably raining in the race, which may or may not happen in Abu Dhabi, then of course you can crank up the wings, just probably go +5 on it, and then just go +5 as well. And maybe you want to add +2 more for the front wing. That's usually my go-to adjustment for the intermediates. Just +2 on your wing, and then if it's going to be full wet, it's usually +3 from the dry setup. So that's done. And let's go to the next part, which is transmission. 50-50 here. So this, of course, it's only for qualifying. You want to use 50% on throttle, but remember, whenever you're accelerating on the curbs, especially coming out of turn 1, turn 2, 3, wherever it is, and on the exit of both of the back straights, onto the back straights, you really need 55 on throttle so that you do not wheel spin while accelerating on the curbs. Everywhere else, like in sector 3, you can actually use 50 so that you get a little bit more rotation when you are trying to accelerate. And off throttle at 50, this is the usual. In qualifying, you want the most rotation so that you can maximize your lap time, get the best lap time. 51 or 52 is also pretty good for race conditions. It looks after the tires as well. It does not slide too much, and given that the rear tire wear is a little bit higher around here compared to the front, so you definitely want to take care of the rear in the race. In one short qualifying, or whatever qualifying you go for, you're only going to use the tire once, so you can always go 50 for off throttle. Now let's move to suspension geometry. Again, no secrets here. Minimum camber and minimum on the toe. That's pretty much the easiest and almost the quickest way to set up your suspension geometry. If you really fine tune this, probably half a tenth you could find, but at Pepega levels like me, I don't really find a benefit of that. Maybe a little bit of rear toe for stability if you really need, coming out of slower corners. If you feel the car is snapping a lot, that's also useful. General stability in the car. But if you go too much on the rear toe, you will start, let's say you go like half, full, middle or something, you really lose a lot of rotation and a lot of time in your car there. So keep it as low as possible. Suspension, alright, so here's where we have done some magic here. 41 stiff, very stiff front suspension so that you get a lot of stability, especially in sector 3 where you have a lot of well, it's not really a lot, it's long corners where you have to keep applying the power and you need stability over there and you need some confidence in your car. So having a stiff front suspension makes sure that you get a responsive car. and that's probably the easiest way to set up your car, for stability. And then rear suspension, again, this a little bit of tricks that you can use here and there. Sometimes I use lower rear suspension with higher ride height. That did not work here because there's a lot of high speed exits where the car feels like it's gonna snap whenever you go on power. So I've opted for a little bit higher rear suspension here, and then a little bit lower rear rear ride height a little bit lower here, so that it balances out how the suspension works. And to add a little bit of stability on exits, when you go onto power, you want the car to be very planted. I've added quite a bit of front anti-roll bar. Started at 1 as usual, and then go up by two clicks. I went up to 3, 5, 7, and then went up to like 8, 9. It started to feel a lot understeery, so I went back to 7. I think that's the sweet spot that I liked it. If you want a little bit more rotation under acceleration or on entry, you want the car to be a lot more agile, you can always reduce this. You can go all the way down to 1. You may feel the car will snap a little bit on entry and mid corner as well, and when you go on power, it wants to slide a lot, so you'll probably notice that. So play around with that and see what's your sweet spot. And for the ride height, 32 is pretty much the lowest I think you should go around here, given that there's a little bit of downforce on the car and also quite a bit of curbs that you have to take around here. Excuse me. So 32 feels pretty safe around here and quite quick as well. It's quite pointy into the corners. And 37 ride height is just, like I said, to balance out with the suspension. Now if you soften the front suspension, which is also a possibility around here, you may want to consider going up 1 or 2 clicks on the front ride height. Usually I'll recommend, for every 5 clicks you go down on the suspension, you increase 1 click on the ride height to give you the same effect but more compliance on the curb basically. If you don't want that, you just want a very predictable car, just go for this. Okay, suspension done. Let's go to brakes. 100% brake pressure, and you want to run at least 55% brake bias around here. You can use 54 in the last sector for qualifying, and in the race I use 55 for the last sector. And for heavy braking zones, maybe even turn 1, turn 4, before the hairpin before the back straights, and then the chicane in the middle of the 2 back straights, I use 56 or 57 sometimes, depending on how the car feels. So that's really to keep the car stable and stop the rear from locking up. And then tire pressures are all minimum because, well, it gets really hot around here. For qualifying though, I'll definitely recommend going up probably around 3 clicks on the front and rear. You can even go 5 clicks on the front. Just keep it in this range. I think 5.3 is suitable for qualifying, and then you can start minimum for the race. Maybe you want 1 or 2 clicks on the front if your fronts are a little bit colder than the rear, so that your fronts, the front of your tire, the front tires bite in a bit more into the corners with a little bit more pressure there, but not too much. All right, and that's all. So 40-33 wings, low downforce is 37-30. You can also maybe just go 1 click lower if you really want to, or 2 clicks lower, whichever you prefer, and then play around with the front wing. 55-50 for qualifying, 50 for sector 3 when you use on throttle, and then off throttle 51 or 52 for the race. Geometry, right, left, 41-10 suspension, 7-1 anti-roll bars, 32-37 ride height. Play around with this. If you find something good, feel free to recommend in the chat as well. 155 brakes, 56 or 57 maybe for the race in heavy braking zones. And minimum tire pressures will keep you safe in all conditions in the race. There you go. And let's finally save this setup for once and hope no more issues with processing this video, no more YouTube blocky stuff happening. And let's head out into the track guide and see how we can tackle this track, albeit it was done on a little bit earlier. So let's see. I think I've managed to set a quicker personal best than the unuploaded video there, so we'll probably see that how to take the lap in a sort of perfect way. So let's go in, and you can see there's a little bit more time to be found as well. 21.9. You can see we lost a little bit of time here when you scroll down to the session best laps. I think we did 22.1 in this 9th lap in the second row. We lost a little bit of time in sector 2. That's pretty much the entry into the back straights, and a little bit on the last sector 110, but you get DRS in the race that's worth 3-4 tenths easily. So keep your momentum in the race, and yeah, you'll be easily following someone, saving more battery as well, and play the smart game. Now let's go into the track guide, take a look at the fastest lap, which was the 21.9 that we did a few laps earlier in the session. So starting the lap, you want to, nice view, you want to prepare the lap by going as wide as possible, but you don't really have to go too wide in this game because sometimes there's marbles on the offline, and that's going to ruin your grip coming onto the main straight. So you can even take the normal racing line and then straighten out the car. We get a little bit of power slide there, probably a few more thousandths or half a tenth definitely lost there as you can see. Either way, start your lap and then bring the car slowly to the right hand side. You want to be braking right after the 100-meter board here. There's also this Rolex tower on the right hand side which you can use as a secondary marker, so around the 75-meter mark. So brake in a straight line and then trail brake into the corner, lift the brakes as you start to turn, and once you're already hitting the apex like this, you want to start accelerating from here itself, and probably about 30-40% power, and keep going up 50, 60, and all the way on the exit. By this time you're already 100% on the throttle and you're still trying to straighten out the car, but trust me, the grip is there on qualifying modes, so you can definitely take this flat out. Right, all the exit curves you can see here to maximize your exit speed, and then carry all the momentum to the left-hander here. Ride a little bit of the curb, don't ride any more than that because it actually spits you out, or sometimes it can spin the car. And then tight on the left and tight on the right as well. This will gain you a lot of time as well. If you don't take this curb, you're probably going to lose half a tenth easily down to turn number 5. So take the curb and then stay as tight as you can, as you can see here, and then straighten out the car, bring it to the right hand side to end sector 1, and you'll be braking right as the curb starts here. So maybe 50-meter mark for qualifying, you can brake a little bit later sometimes. For the race, usually it's at this at the start of this curb. Now there is a chance that you can take the curb, ride the curb entirely and then gain a bit more time, but sometimes a little bit RNG. There's some potholes on this track, very horrible ones, so sometimes you get bumped on the curb, sometimes you don't, so it's safer to avoid the curb in general in this track. Avoid mounting the curbs where it's possible. So brake in a straight line down to 4th gear and then start trail braking into the corner. It's quite an unwinding corner here, so you want to make sure you tuck in the car early into the corner and then start accelerating from here itself. Be tight on the entry, but don't mount the red curb, the red and white curb on the inside, as you can see, like this. And on the exit, start accelerating as soon as you can. The sooner you accelerate, the more lap time you will gain eventually. On the exit, let the car run wide onto the exit curb. Again, this curb also has some potholes sometimes. I've had it in my previous runs just now, so I'm just avoiding it. Lap time wise, not much difference anyway. It's just safer to not mount the full curb. You can take first part of it, but don't take too much of the curb. And accelerate in a straight line. Keep it tight on the right hand side for the shortest run down to the next braking zone. DRS wide open here, and then let's run down to the braking zone, where most of the time these braking markers will disappear from the track because someone either wrecks it, tries to take the curb for qualifying and whatnot, which again, similar to the earlier curb into turn 5, you can take it, but there's potholes sometimes that can spit the car off or spin you out entirely, and you'll probably lose more time than you can probably gain here. So safer way is just to not mount the curb around the 100-meter board, or as you see this this curb, the texture of the curb starts to change. That's when you want to brake. And another alternative braking marker is the start of this P0 AstroTurf on the right hand side, the black one with the yellow writing, right after the curb here. So this is a more solid reference that you can use, a little bit more visible. So as you pass that, that's where you want to brake in the qualifying, in the race as well. Brake and then make sure you go down to 3rd gear, and you can take 2nd gear in the race as well. Carry a bit more speed in 3rd gear in the qualifying, and then very tight on the entry. You want to open up the left hander here, sacrifice the entry here, so that the right hander and the next straight you gain a lot more time. So if you do this right, like this, stay in the middle of the track and then flick the car over to the right hand side quickly without mounting the sausage, without mounting the curb. Ideally, I feel if you mount the curb, it definitely speeds the car out a little bit. So if you can avoid it, that's good. And then on the exit, let the car run wide again and use all the exit curb. So like I said, for braking, try to avoid taking the curbs. For acceleration, you can take it sometimes. This curb is pretty much okay to take like this, fully on the curb. It doesn't bottom you out unless you're running a very soft and very low suspension, which is a death wish around here. So continue on in a straight line, stick to the left hand side here to gain a lot more time. A lot of people make this mistake to follow the racing line and then drift to the right hand side. You will lose half a tenth easily. So stick to the left hand side here all the way as long as you can, and then towards the end of the braking zone, towards the start of the braking zone, when you spot the braking zone coming up, then only you want to bring the car over to the right hand side. Brake after the 50-meter mark on the right hand side. And there's also a secondary reference is the change of curbs on the extra road on the side where the 50-meter mark is. The red and white and the blue painted curb start to intersect. That's where you can use as a reference. And then brake in a straight line, and then trail brake quite deep into this corner. In some sense, you want to be carrying a lot of speed into this corner. The faster you are, the more stable the car usually goes. High downforce cars are like that. So you want to be carrying quite a bit of speed here. Stay tight on the entry here initially, and then let the car run wide on the exit and use all the curb that you can. This is pretty much as I could use in that previous run, and then stay tight again to the right hand side here. Don't drift wide to the left like I did here for like this, but in the race or qualifying sometimes there are marbles off the racing line, so you may want to just follow the normal racing line here so you don't ruin your tires for the next sequence of corners. So it's better to just follow this racing line if you need to, but if you really search for that few thousands, you can stay tight, but be careful of the marbles. And then right as the curb on the right hand side, the painted blue curb and the red and white curb starts to intersect, that's where I usually start to straighten out the car and then brake. You're sort of braking into the left hand side curb here, but just temporarily, and then trail brake into the corner again. Third gear for the entry, carry a lot of speed here, but don't mount too much of the curb. And then on the exit, open up the steering and then apply as much power as you can. Momentarily you can go flat out here if you have the high downforce setup applied, but on the low downforce setup sometimes it's a bit sketchy to put full power. So probably around 70-80%. Keep the power on and then stay tight on the entry. You have to lift a little bit, and then once the nose is pointed into the curb here, go full throttle almost. Sometimes you can go full. Run on the exit, but don't take the second layer of the curb. It really just spits the car straight into the wall in front of you. So take a little bit of the curb like this so that you can open up the left hander here. So it's important to carry a lot of exit speed here and carry a lot of speed on the curb itself. Don't mount any more than this, otherwise again it spits you out. On the exit, you want to start opening up the steering and applying more and more power. Use all the exit road that you have here so that you maximize the speed that you carry throughout this sequence of corners. And then bring the car over to the left, but not too much, and because the next right hander is pretty much flat. In the race you want to be as left as possible so that it's easier to take the right hander flat with heavier fuel on harder tires as well. And then stay tight on the entry here. As you can see, we could have taken a little bit more, but that's okay. On the exit, again you can take the entry curb for the braking, but a little bit of RNG as well. Sometimes it spits you out, sometimes it doesn't. So it's safer to not take it and just take the first layer of it, and that's okay in my opinion. And then you can brake as the orange barrier on the right hand side starts, or the white line on the ground appears close to your front wing. That's where you want to brake. Down to fourth gear. For qualifying, you want to take a very early apex here so that you gain time. It's a short run to the line. For a normal race, racing lap, you can just take it like normal, wide entry, not too wide though, because there are marbles on the outline. And On the exit, you want to use all the exit curb here as well. Open up the steering as you are accelerating as well. You'll feel the car stabilizing. If it's stable, then go for it. You can full throttle here, but make sure your steering is as straight as possible when you're going full throttle here. And then slowly drift the car over to the right hand side to start another lap. And there you go. That is the end of the lap around Abu Dhabi. And finally, I hope this one gets uploaded. Thank you, YouTube, in advance. I'll see you. Well, it's already the end of December, so this will be the final upload of 2023. And in 2024, I have a different series lined up, to teach you how to prepare for races, effective practicing and whatnot, all those things that I've learned over the 5, 6 or 7 years maybe of sim racing, and eventually arriving here. And well, that's gonna be another series as well. I'll see you next year. So till then, everyone, thank you so much. We're at 600 plus subs already, and road to 1K is definitely getting closer. I'll see y'all next year. Take care, everyone. Stay safe. Happy holidays and happy new year. See you in 2024. Ciao.